In the early decades of the 17th century, Stockholm was a city standing on the threshold of greatness. The air buzzed with the clang of blacksmiths' hammers and the shouts of merchants in the bustling harbour. And along the sparkling waters, rising above the city's spires, a monumental endeavour was underway, one that stirred the ambitions of a nation eager to stake its claim as a maritime power. Sweden, under the determined gaze of King Gustav II Adolf, was building a ship to outshine every vessel that had ever sailed the northern seas.
The project was as bold as the age itself. I envision a warship of staggering power, a floating fortress bristling with bronze cannons and clad in elaborate wooden sculptures. Its name will become legend, Vasa.
From the beginning, Vasa was meant to awe. Her sides bristled with 2 full gun decks, a fearsome arsenal ready to unleash thunder and iron upon any who dared oppose the Swedish crown. The hull curved proudly from stem to stern. Along the high stern castle, intricate figures looked out, the royal family, mythic lions, Roman emperors, angels and fearsome sea monsters, all rendered in bold, sweeping lines and gilded in gold and brilliant paint. The carvings were more than decoration. They were a declaration, soaring symbols of Sweden's aspiration to dominate the Baltic, crafted to strike fear and admiration throughout the courts of Europe. Crowds would gather in the shipyard to watch the sculptors' work, marveling at the sheer grandeur being created before their eyes. But grandeur, as the months wore into years, was not without its price. The desire for firepower and majesty pushed Vasa's design to its limits.
More cannons, loftier galleries, higher carvings.
Even as craftsmen chiseled and shipwrights hammered, quiet worries began to surface among the more pragmatic minds in the yard. The new warship was growing top-heavy. Every addition to the upper works tilted the careful balance of hull and mast. Some voiced concerns that went unheeded or were brushed aside in the momentum of royal ambition. By early August 1628, Vasa stood at last complete, an imposing presence of nearly 70 meters in length, adorned with 64 cannons, and crowned with banners bearing the blue and gold of Sweden. At the water's edge, mooring lines creaked and snapped against the current. From land and sea alike, all eyes turned to Vasa, ready to bear witness as the pride of the Swedish Navy prepared for its maiden voyage. The morning of August 10th dawned bright and warm. Stockholm poured into the harbour, noble chairs in carriages and sailors' families jostling for a view. On deck, officers gave brisk orders as their men prepared the final rigging. The ship's sails, heavy and new, caught the sunlight with a crisp sheen. Gentle gusts ruffled the standards on her stern. King Gustav II Adolf was not present. He waited further along the coast for the mighty vessel that would soon unite with the fleet, but his agents and officers stood proudly among the crowd. In Vasa's ornate captain's quarters, anticipation hung heavy. Soon the sacrifices, the arguments, the relentless labour would yield victory and awe. With a signal from shore, anchors were raised, and Vasa's sailmakers unfurled 6 of the great ship's 10 sails. The vessel began her stately departure, oars churning the water as she slipped past Skeppsholmen Island. Drums rolled, and a cannon on the prow fired a salute, its retort echoing along the crowded quays. Onlookers cheered, hats and bonnets rose into the air. Vasa glided forward, flag billowing, sunlight glinting off carved crown and bronze muzzle alike. For a moment, Stockholm's dreams floated atop the waters. But beneath the painted lions and splintered angels, danger hid in shadow. Vasa was not yet clear of the bustling harbour when the first gust struck. A gentle push, testing her stability. The ship heeled. The mariners braced, ropes snapping taut. But Vasa righted herself, steady as the last lines slipped from her stern. A second, stronger gust swept across the water, swelling the sails. This time, the elegant warship leaned further. Below decks, barrels rolled. Startled crew members scrambled to adjust ballast. The tilt grew sharper. For heartbeats, onlookers watched in silence as the vessel hesitated at the brink. Then, almost imperceptibly, water seeped through the open gun ports. Within moments, tragedy was unstoppable. Seawater surged onto the lower deck, crashing over storage barrels and flooding the holds. The crew's desperate efforts to right the ship were in vain. Cannons tore from their moorings, smashing timber and bone alike as Vasa listed further. Above decks, panic churned into chaos. Officers shouted for the sails to be taken in, but too late. With a groan that echoed across the city, Vasa's grand hull rolled onto her port side. The proud banners dipped beneath the waves. In a matter of minutes, the majestic vessel slipped beneath the surface, swallowed by the kin-grey Baltic, while thousands stood helpless, horror-stricken on the shore. In the silence that followed, the water boiled with scattered wreckage, broken spars, tangled rigging, and the forms of men who had not escaped. Of those aboard, many perished, unable to reach safety amid the tangle of timbers and crushing weight of the sinking ship. Shock rippled through Stockholm. The news shamed the court, undermined the king's ambitions, and sent whispers of blame and recrimination through the navy's ranks. But the Baltic, cold and reluctant to yield, held her secret tightly. The world moved on, and Vasa, her cannons silent, her banners shrouded by the sea, became a legend and a warning whispered among shipwrights and sailors for centuries to come. Yet the cold, brackish water that had claimed her became, with slow and silent patience, Vasa's unlikely savior. The Baltic Sea, low in oxygen and sheltered from the fierce Atlantic gales, proved hostile to the shipworms and decay that devoured wooden wrecks elsewhere. Year after year, silt and mud enshrouded the Vasa, preserving her timbers, her decks, her battered treasures from the rot of time. Nearly 3.5 centuries would pass before the world would again see the pride of Sweden's navy. In the late 1950s, marine archaeologists and divers, armed with new technology and insatiable curiosity, set out to locate the legendary wreck. They searched the dark, sluggish waters of Stockholm's harbour, guided by centuries-old documents, rumours, and the hope that some remnant might remain. In 1961, after meticulous planning and months of effort, Vasa rose once more. Engineers threaded powerful steel cables beneath her hull, inflating pontoons until the ship, sodden but largely intact, broke the surface for the first time since that fateful August day. A crowd, descendants of those who once watched her sink, gathered to bear witness as history emerged, dripping and barnacled from the murk of centuries. The recovery proved extraordinary. From the muddy holds and shadowed cabins, conservators retrieved a stunning array of artifacts, each one whispering of the lives that ended so suddenly, of the daily tasks and tiny dramas aboard the ill-fated ship. Clothing was found tangled among the beams, woolen coats, rough linen shirts, leather shoes, and hats still bearing the names of long-lost owners. Personal items surfaced, intricately carved combs, pipe stems, coins and rosaries, talismans of hope and faith tucked away in pockets and packs. Weapons abounded, muskets with flintlocks, boarding axes, and ornate swords, some still nestled in scabbards, their blades dulled but their shapes unmistakable.